What if a movie wasn't trying to tell you who someone was,
This is your story.
but who they wanted you to remember?
You can change the world. Spread love, joy.
For years, Michael Jackson has existed in two different realities. In one, he's the greatest entertainer who ever lived, the king of pop, the man who changed music forever.
Thank you. Yeah, I have to say, those were the good old days. I love those songs. Those were magic moments with all my brothers, including...
In the other one, he's one of the most controversial celebrities in modern history. A man whose legacy became impossible to separate from allegations, courtrooms, settlements, and questions that never truly went away. And for years, those realities have existed side by side. Then in 2026, a movie arrived. It was supposed to tell his story, to show us the real Michael Jackson. But instead, it may have changed the conversation all over again. So here's the question. Did this really tell Michael Jackson's story, or did it tell the version the people wanted to hear? When Michael first premiered in April 2026, starring Jackson's own nephew, Jaafar Jackson, it wasn't just a successful movie, it became a phenomenon. The film opened to more than $217.4 million globally, shattering box office records. People were singing, dancing, cheering, and some were even crying in movie theaters. Social media was filled with videos of packed cinemas erupting when iconic songs like Beat It, Billie Jean, and Thriller began to play. And at some point you really get it, because when you're sitting in that dark room and Billie Jean comes on, and Jaafar hits that first move, it stops being about the movie, it becomes about you. About the first time you heard the song, or about you being 8 years old in your living room trying to moonwalk in your socks. The movie understood that. Every performance, every dance, every recreated music video was supposed to pull you back and to remind you why Michael became one of the most famous human beings on the planet. And it worked. Through the movie, fans remembered the moonwalk, the glove, the sold-out stadiums, the music videos, the records, and so much more. For a lot of people, Michael Jackson represents something deeply emotional. His music was their childhood, their comfort, their first concert, or it reminded them of school road trips, school dances, weddings, and moments they'll never forget. That emotional connection became the movie's greatest strength. But beneath the standing ovations, some critics began asking a different question. Not whether the movie was entertaining or whether Jaafar gave an impressive performance, but whether the movie was ever trying to tell the story at all. Because months before release, the marketing was everywhere. Trailers dominated social media, billboards covered major cities, posters were everywhere. And the more successful the movie was, the bigger one question grew. How do you make a 3-hour movie about one of the most controversial celebrities in modern history without confronting the controversy that defines so much of his legacy? The most fascinating thing about the movie is that it ends in 1988. No Neverland search warrant, no 2005 criminal trial, no Leaving Neverland, none of it. And at first, you may think maybe that was an artistic choice, that they wanted to focus on the rise, the peak of his career. But here's where it gets a bit more complicated. The original script didn't end in 1988. It covered more of Michael Jackson's life. It even included a scene showing investigators arriving at Neverland Ranch in 1993 during the first major abuse investigation. Those scenes never made it into the film. They were removed not for artistic reasons, but for legal ones. Because you see, it turns out that a 1990 settlement between the Jackson family and the Chandler family, the family of the first boy who accused Michael, contained a clause. Those events could never be dramatized in a film. And apparently, nobody caught that when the script was approved. And so, the film was restructured, the third act was scrapped, and the movie got got delayed over and over again. And the people making the decision weren't just the producers. They were the Jackson estate, the entity that controls the music catalog, the image rights, the merchandise, and ultimately the version of Michael Jackson the world gets to see. And just like that, people were left with the image of the performer, the dreamer, the boy who changed music forever. And perhaps that's the whole point. It's not necessarily a movie about Michael Jackson's life, but about his legacy, the version of him that can exist without confronting the questions that still divide people today. To understand why any of this matters, we need to know what the movie chose not to show. In 1993, a 13-year-old boy named Jordan Chandler accused Michael Jackson of sexual abuse. The accusations were specific and detailed to the point where the Los Angeles and Santa Barbara police departments investigated. Jackson later settled the civil suit in January 1994 for a total of approximately $23 million and was none. Jackson later settled the civil suit in January 1994 for a total of approximately $23 million and was never criminally charged. Then, in 2003, Michael Jackson agreed to sit down with British former journalist Martin Henry Bashir for a documentary called Living with Michael Jackson. In the documentary, Jackson was shown holding hands with a 13-year-old boy named Gavin Arvizo, telling the camera that sharing a bed was the most loving thing you could do, and seeming genuinely confused about why anyone would find that troubling. That documentary triggered a criminal investigation, and in 2005, Jackson stood on trial for multiple charges, including child molestation. He was acquitted on all counts later on, but being acquitted isn't the same as nothing happened. Later, in 2019, Leaving Neverland landed like a bomb. Filmmaker Dan Reed released a 236-minute documentary in which two men, Wade Robson and James Safechuck, sat in front of the camera and described in explicit detail what they say Michael Jackson did to them when they were children.
From Australia, who I was so enamored by him, so in love with him, such a huge fan. And now, within the first day or so, he's telling me that we were brought together by God, that we were meant to be together, that he wanted to be my friend, and he thought I was amazing. He thought I was so talented, and he thought I was so sweet, and he wanted to spend all of his time with me. So this feeling of being, the chosen one, out of all the kids in the world.
You had to feel very special about that, Wade.
The documentary was nominated for many awards. It won an Emmy Award for Outstanding Documentary or Nonfiction Special, and went on later to win the BAFTA TV Award for Factual Series, as well as the Cinema Eye Honors Awards for Outstanding Achievement in Broadcast Nonfiction Filmmaking, and the Television Critics Association Awards for Outstanding Achievement in News and Information. The Jackson estate responded aggressively by suing HBO for $100 million, arguing that the documentary violated a non-disparagement clause from a 1992 contract tied to the broadcast of his Dangerous tour. Radio stations pulled his music from their playlists, streaming numbers dropped, and the conversation cracked open. And then the movie came out. And in the movie, their names are not spoken. Their stories are not addressed, even as allegations. They were practically erased. What made the movie successful was how it handled the controversy surrounding Michael, or rather, how it avoided it altogether, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The first trick is simple. They make you feel sorry for him before you have time to answer any difficult question. And honestly, it's a strategy that works. The movie spends a lot of time on Joe Jackson, Michael's father, a brutal man who physically and psychologically abused his kids while turning them into a money-making machine. That part of Michael's story is real, and it's awful, and it deserves to be told. But it also makes you deeply sympathetic. It asks you to see Michael as a traumatized boy who never healed, and programs you to think that everything he does was a response to his trauma. The second trick is making sure someone else becomes the villain. And in the movie, that villain is the media. Journalists, Journalists, paparazzi, tabloid reporters, and television personalities are shown as monsters, always chasing, always twisting the truth, trying to tear the Michael down. And to be fair, there is some truth in that, since Michael was always mocked on his appearance, his race, but after a while you start to feel that accusations stop feeling like accusations. They start to feel like just another headline made by tabloids to grab the attention, like it's just another attack, another low move to overthrow the king of pop. But the third trick is the most effective one of all, yet the most subtle, because it doesn't involve arguments, nor does it involve dialogue or even facts. It involves music. The movie shows you and reminds you of what made Michael Jackson untouchable in the eyes of millions: his music. Because while you're watching Thriller, Billie Jean, or Man in the Mirror, you're thinking about the artist, the performer, the legend, and you're not having a chance to fully confront the darker questions surrounding him. And maybe that's why Michael has been so successful. Not because it gives us an answer to the questions that have followed Michael Jackson for decades, but because it reminded people of how they felt before these questions were ever asked. For most of us, his music was childhood. It was a part of growing up. And maybe that's what the movie was really trying to do. Not tell the story of Michael Jackson, but tell the story that people want to remember. The question is whether those two are the same.